Hi everybody, my name is Sam Pedro. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the book Maphead, which was written by Ken Jennings. I think now Ken Jennings is a pretty well-known name. He was the all-time winner on Jeopardy, he won like 73 games in a row. Currently, after the passing of Alex Trebek, he is one of the guest hosts of Jeopardy, and I think he's doing a good job with that as well. But on top of all this, he has also written a few books. I had a lot of fun with Maphead, and so I'm excited today to talk about it, share my thoughts. Hopefully by the end of the video, you'll know if this is a book you might want to check out, or maybe you've read the book and you just wanted to hear someone else's thoughts about it. But yeah, so I'll share my thoughts now about Maphead. Maphead is a term that Ken Jennings is using to denote someone who loves maps, is obsessed with maps and atlases and geography in general. And so he's kind of exploring this world of people who really love geography and have kind of found their ways into these niche areas of geography. And it was all kind of spurred because his parents called him one day after he had moved out and said, "Hey, we found another one of your boxes of things. Come check it out." And so he goes to his parents' garage and opens this box, and he finds an old atlas which he had purchased when he was 7 or 8. And as a kid, he loved looking at atlases. He loved looking at maps, and he said he could just look at maps for hours. And he just had this geographic love as a kid. And then he said as he got older, it kind of waned, and he had different interests. But this was the genesis of the idea for the book Maphead, is these people who as kids maybe loved maps but never let that interest wane. What are they doing now? What did that geography love? Where did that lead them? And so that's what he's exploring. And the first few chapters, he's looking at kind of more maps in general, why maps work for humans, how we naturally think of the world spatially, at least a lot of us do. He quotes John Glenn, who was an astronaut who was orbiting the Earth and looking down on the United States, and he saw Florida, and he said, "Oh, that looks just like the maps of Florida I've seen." And so even though maps are just these 2D representations of the world, but we still, when we actually see the real thing, we think of it in terms of maps. And so there's something inherent in each of us that likes looking at maps and can understand the world through maps. And so he kind of explores that in the first few chapters. So he goes on to explore these different areas of where map love can take you. So for example, in one chapter, it's specifically dedicated to the Geography Bee, which is held every year. And so he attends the National Geography Bee and spends time with the participants in it. And he just is blown away by these middle school age children whose geographic knowledge surpasses anything he could imagine. They know where everything is. They know where everything is by. And they've pretty much memorized every magazine issue of the National Geographic. So he explores that and kind of explains what drives them and interviews them. That was a fun chapter. In another chapter, he explores, I think it's called the Century Club or the Traveler's Century Club. Basically, it's this traveling club, and the requirement to be admitted into the club is you have to have traveled to at least 100 countries. And so he goes to their annual meeting, meets these people who have been to 150, 200 countries, have traveled the world, and talks with them, and again tries to figure out what makes them tick, what drives them to do this. I found that really interesting. These people who, they're pretty much traveling every week or every other week. On the topic of checklists, there's another chapter that's devoted to people who chase down things such as going to every McDonald's restaurant or every Starbucks location, whether it's 15,000 or 20,000 locations. Their desire in life is to be able to check off that they've been to each and every one. So that was interesting, hearing their thoughts there. In another chapter, he travels to, I believe it's the Library of Congress Map Division. I can't remember the exact name. But it's something like 9,000 cabinets of maps. And every time a government entity creates a map, a copy is sent to the Library of Congress. And so all those maps are in the public domain. And he talks about looking at some of those maps, some of the most famous ones, including one in which George Washington actually created when he was a surveyor. And so that was a fun chapter as well. The book kind of continues on like this. Hopefully that gives you a flavor of what you might find. It's basically Ken Jennings interviewing and explaining these groups of people, whether it's a map collector or someone else who just happens to love maps. And so really interesting, the things that people get themselves into, these hobbies. And so I had a lot of fun reading Maphead. And I will say Ken Jennings is a very great writer. I was actually really entertained. He has a very unique humor to his writing that I think flows really well. And so from beginning to end, I was entertained, while at the same time feeling like I was learning something. And so I appreciate that in a book. And so Ken Jennings did that very well. I had a lot of fun with Maphead. I recommend it, definitely, especially if you have any kind of inkling into like, oh, I like geography or I like maps. You have to check out Maphead because this is a great book that explores that world. And if you're not as much into geography, I still think it can be entertaining, learning about this. If you like to learn about new things, I think this can be a good book for you. And so that's all I'll share about Maphead. Go check it out. It's a great book, and I will see you in the next video.